Hello and welcome to this tutorial on creating drawings in SpaceClaim. So oftentimes when we've been working with our 3D model and we want to communicate our design to other members of the team or other clients, etc. And maybe these customers, clients, colleagues don't have a copy of SpaceClaim or they don't have any sort of 3D software that can open the model to kind of look at it themselves. So you need to create a draft of the design. So to do that in SpaceClaim, it's actually very straightforward. We just go to the File menu here. We have our model open. And we go to the File menu and we go to New. And then over here under Design, we have Drawing Sheet. So I'm going to click on Drawing Sheet. And that's going to create my drawing sheet with, by default, the 3 views, so the top, side, and front views of the model in question. Now, one thing I want to point out to you before we proceed is when you're in drawing mode, it's a bit of a sleight of hand. So if I hold down the middle mouse button and start to move it around, it works. It is in fact just a 3D model. It's taken sort of 3 copies of that model and superimposed them over this 2D drawing sheet. So that's essentially what you're working with. Now, if you want to go back to sort of that nice 2D view, again, just hit Plan View, just as you would in if you were working on a model normally. And I want to show you a few things here now that we have our drawing open. Of course, we can add notes anywhere we want. If we want to fill in these fields, we can put a title in, and so on and so forth. Put in my initials, approvals, etc. Anything you want. You can also use custom drawing sheets. So if your company uses its own sort of custom sheet, you can import that and use that instead. So for example, if you click on Format up here, you get a number of formatting options, and there's you can click on More Formats. That will allow you to do a search for your drawing sheet. You can add that in as a new kind of format, but by default you get this this format. Now, if I want to add more views, I just go up here to the Views panel, and for example, I'll just click on General, and that will just give me a general view. Just by default, it's isometric. We can change that easily enough if we just when we're hovering over it, we can click on this panel here, and you see it lets me choose between isometric, trimetric, and the various top, bottom, left, right, front, back. And so on and so forth. Here I can change, the style. So if I want this to be, maybe I want that to be a wireframe, or a hidden line, or hidden line removed. We have a number of options that we can give to our view. So I'm just going to leave that as an isometric view. I'm going to leave that in a corner there, and I can just, I can move it around, place it wherever I want. One thing to notice is if I try to move one of these, what are called projected views, which is what by default you get these 3 projected views, you'll notice if I move this panel, as I move it up and down, you see the side view is also moving up and down. So it keeps these in line. So if you're adding like measurements and that sort of thing, everything will be lined up to avoid any confusion. So you can move these wherever you want. Like maybe you want these 3 views to be over here, and then you're going to make this view here. You're going to make that bigger, which you can do. First, what I need to do is for example, if I try to resize, if I change the scale, go up here to Scale. What's going to happen is it's actually going to change the scale of all of the views. So in order to prevent that behavior, I'm just going to go back to 2.5. In order to, so for example, maybe we want to make this one bigger. What we need to do is first we're going to right click when we get this this line, this border appearing, and notice up here it says link to sheet. Well, we're going to change that to 2.5 independent. And all that means is it's going to, if we change the scale, it's going to change this independently of the others. So now, if I type in a different scale here, so 1.5, it's going to rescale that, and it's going to show me here the scale underneath, just so we know that it's a different scale from the rest of the model. Now another thing we can do is we can add cross sections, and so what I'm going to do first is, because I want to keep these three views, I'm going to add a new view, and that's going to be a cross section. So I'm going to add another general view, and this time I'm going to go up here. Before I click away, I'm going to click here and change this to top view. So it'll look exactly like this one, except it's not a projected view, so it's not. I can move this around. It's not going to change the position of the other views. This is going to be my cross section. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to place it up here, sort of close to my other one, and then I'm going to click on cross section. It says could not create valid section view from selected objects. So what I'll do first is I'm going to click on cross section when I don't have anything selected. Then I'm going to click on the model that I want the cross section of, and then when I hover over one of the other views, other than obviously the top view, because we're already in a top view, but if I hover over this side view, or I hover over this this front view, I'm going to get you see the cross section through that area. So I'm just trying to find a good spot. I think this is probably an interesting one to place it. So now I've placed it. I have those arrows pointing to where that cross section is, and then section AA indicating that this is the section from A to A. So now I have my cross section view. So now I can click anywhere else. I'm going to click on select just to get out of that tool. So now the other thing you can do is you can add details. So if you click on this detail view, say you wanted to zoom in on maybe this this corner section or something, and basically what it lets me do is it lets me place sort of the center of that detail and then just move out, and it's going to create sort of a zoomed in version of that. Everything within that circle is going to appear here in this other view. So now I've placed that, I can see a little bit more detail here. Again, I can change the scale of that. So if I go to click on that, and notice it's already independent of the rest of the model, because of course it is a different scale by default. Otherwise, it wouldn't really be of much use. So we have that detail there, detail A, and you can see over here it's highlighted where that detail is. So any sort of small bits that you want to show, this is a good way to do it. So that's pretty much. I mean, those are the fundamentals of the drawing sheet. I don't want to go into too much, more detail at this point. You can play around with some of these things. There's a number of options here for welding symbols. You can put in welding symbols. You can put in bills of materials. You can put in various different engineering notation, and so on and so forth. One thing I should also point out is the dimension, which works just as it does in the normal sort of 3D mode. You can just click on dimension, and it'll let you, if you hover over any whatever you want to measure. So, for example, if I wanted to measure this side, not including the rounds, I just click on that side, and then I can move my mouse around and place that wherever I want. So just click, and it'll place that dimension, and that's good. You can also do things like you can measure from one point to another. So if I click on, let's just try to find a good point here. Maybe I'll click on this this point here, and now when I move my mouse, you'll see wherever I hover over, it's going to measure from that side to that side. So for whatever reason, maybe I wanted to measure from this corner here. I don't want to start from there, but I want to measure from here to maybe I don't know, the outside of that kind of curved area here. So I'll just click there. So now I can see that this sort of flange, starting from where it curves out, is going to be 2.795 inches. You can also do things like if you have cylindrical areas or circular areas, you can, if you click, it will by default show you sort of the diameter of that circular area. I can also measure, the radius of a round. So, for example, I know I want to show, the people I'm communicating with that those rounds have a certain radius. So that's pretty much it. So I hope that was helpful. Thank you very much for watching.